I was the one that Kuros brought. I think he messaged you about this.
Wait, who said that? I'm gonna put an exclamation in your name. So you're on the top.
Fuck no. I already gave you mine. No problem. Yeah. I'll probably help that. You sure you should be streaming?
Why?
Cause one bad curse word and
I'd get a temp ban.
yeah.
I should probably record this too. That way we have
Yeah.
There you go. Hello?
Hello?
There you go. I'm here. And we're using the scan chat, right?
Yeah. Are you in here?
This shit is laggy.
Is it already laggy? Because I hear him perfectly fine. Bruce, are you in the VC?
Yeah, I'm here.
Could you put exclamation marks and spaces in your name? That way I can just see you up top.
Okay.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready. Good to go.
You want to start off?
No, you can start.
Okay. So, I'm using Kuzan. The first thing I'll be starting with is I'll be posting a manga panel. Basically, Akainu is able to damage and melt off half of Whitebeard's face in this panel right here.
Mhm.
So if we know that obviously half of his head is gone from just one attack, or he has attack potency to damage Whitebeard, and we know that Kuzan and the Kaido are able to fight for multiple days on stalemate, they should have relative attack potency. You want to scan for that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, so here's basically the panel that refers that they're able to fight on stalemate for multiple days on end. So they should have like relative AP, speed, and attack potency. And this is also like way after Marineford. So if anything, you could argue that they've gotten stronger since that time
Isn't
period.
this is shortly after Marineford? Because didn't Sengoku retire immediately, and then Aokiji, or however you say his name, was upset of the fact that Akainu wanted to be admiral, so then they instantly went to Punk Hazard and fought.
Yeah, but it's still a time period after. And do you think that fighting in One Piece doesn't make you stronger after a battle?
Do you have any way to quantify how much stronger for either of them?
No, I'm not saying it's a quantification. I'm just saying that they would have got unquantifiably stronger, which is fine. It's just to show you that he should still be relative to somebody who's already stronger, if not able to take out Whitebeard on several accounts.
Okay. Yeah.
And and then also then there would be like another thing on top of that because they have a 2-year time skip, post time skip. Here, I'll put panels for you with Kainu damage and Whitebeard. Yeah. So Whitebeard also does tag him, but in the same scan, he actually tanks this. And obviously, if he's bleeding, there's no way to quantify how much damage it would take to incapacitate Kainu. So he should still have enough durability to tank Whitebeard's hits. And even if you were to say that he was weakened, the significant damage that he suffered was from a Kainu. There's no way to quantify how much stronger he would be at full power.
Okay.
So yeah, this is just what I'll start off with. Do you have any contention?
Let me walk through your points real quick. I don't have any contention if you're scaling. So you're scaling Kuzan to be relatable to Akainu in power, correct?
Yeah, I think that they're relative in power, and then
Okay.
I think that Akainu would beat Whitebeard as well.
Okay. So am I good to go now?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to start off with Whitebeard actually having durability negation. If you don't know his Gura no Mi, it always starts off as a circle on his hand or his feet or whatever limb he wants to use, and then he can place the tremors inside of bodies doing physical damage, as you can see here with the giant that he instantly entered the battle with. You can see the epicenter of the circle where the tremors are starting are on his mask, and it's also breaking the mask in a completely even way, meaning that the and you can see by the illustration too of spikes coming out of it that the force is being distributed equally because the tremor is originating from the center of his head. And then with the whole Akainu being similar to Kuzan in power, let me find this here. This is later in the show. This is Akainu just essentially stating that he is afraid to go after Raleigh. Raleigh being Goldie Rogers' former shipmate. He was afraid that people were going to lose too many lives. And the reason why I sent that is because, let me find the YouTube link here. This is Raleigh. If you're saying that they're relative, right? But you can't quantify how much stronger they got during the time skip. This is in Sal Body when Raleigh is fighting Kizaru, and Raleigh actually runs through Kizaru's light beam, casually reflecting it with a smile on his face. And Kizaru himself even states that he was not expecting a hard fight to be on this island. And then back to the durability negation thing. Would you agree, this has been stated in One Piece, I don't have a scan for it, if you don't want to agree to it, it's fine. Would you agree with the statement that some devil fruits are just a counter to other devil fruits, like they're just weak against them?
I think in the equivalents like like a nail, like is electricity, yeah, then like rubber would be like a direct counterpart to that. Or
exactly.
Would give Luffy an advantage, yeah.
So here is Kuzan. A thing with Kuzan is when he freezes stuff, he almost durability negates himself. Now, yes, he's not taking actual damage, but he is turning parts of his body to ice, which does take time to recuperate. And as you can see here, just the pure vibrations of Whitebeard's attack while he is floating in air after trying to nullify Whitebeard's tsunami waves, Kuzan, half of his face slides off, his body falls, and then he's incapacitated for a lot of the war. And the other thing with Kuzan freezing him, and this also ties into the fact that Whitebeard's tremors do just kind of counter Kuzan. Let me send this here. This is Kuzan attempting to hit Whitebeard with an ice ball and freeze him. As you can see here, he says Whitebeard is frozen, but then Kuzan says, I guess it is no use. Vibrations don't seem to freeze very well. And then Whitebeard instantly casually breaks out of it because of the vibrations from his tremors, period.
I've heard you now.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, in response to the first point that you made about the vibrations and like mitigating durability, for you to still use vibrations or for you to still use tremors or how like shocks would work in earthquakes, it wouldn't really matter because the point of contact is where he's starting it at, and then the vibrations would spread from that point of contact. So similar to like if Whitebeard was to condense his power around his fist and then apply it to somebody's chest or their durability, the vibrations would still have to be strong enough to bypass. It'll go through that. And you simply saying that if we look at the focal point of contact and we see that it disperses around that area, he can just be condensed in that area. And then we see that the guy's like mouth is open, and obviously he's put him in a bubble surrounding him. So the quakes are going to be condensed around that area of his body. It does not necessarily have to equate to durability negation. And as far as like the narrative point with the second scan where it says that Rayleigh may be old, but if we weren't capable, or no, Rayleigh may be old, but if we aren't careful about how we approach in the military, could lose a lot of men. This is just in response to Rayleigh's power. And in the same scan that you posted where it says Kizaru versus Rayleigh, he says that yeah, he was planning to have like an easy time on the island, and then he comes in contact with her, and I don't think that necessarily equates to the fact of him being at full power. You can simply argue that if anything, it was like a mid diff for him because we see Rayleigh sweating in that same
Yeah.
clip. So that Rayleigh is slowly losing ground, and he's like talking about how he's old or whatever like that. And it would also be consistent with the whole narrative of how they're talking about like Dark King Rayleigh, like like he's been on the run, or it takes like more than that for them to just capture him without casualties or lose Marine forces. I think is very consistent with the narrative of One Piece. And as far as the vibration point that you're making, where the quakes are able to shatter Aokiji, this is Aokiji in air, and when you're in air, you should be less mobile than you are on the ground. So it does not have to necessarily equate to his speed. Consistent because in this panel right here, one second, this up my folder. We know this is consistent because in this panel right here, Whitebeard is actually shown attacking Aokiji, and similar to like Katakuri, he uses his like advanced observation like type skill, where he is reacting to this Basento slash, and then he moves around it. And they actually think that Whitebeard, they imply Whitebeard is using hockey as well, and then he's still able to react to this Whitebeard. And the panel after that, he's actually going to strike. Let me post the full thing. Actually, going to strike Whitebeard, and Jozu jumps in, which I'll post.
I have that scan if you want me to throw it in there.
Colored one too. But yeah, there you go. That's him using that ice block partition, and then Jozu comes and he says like he looks at Jozu, and then Jozu slams into him while he's off guard. So it's like very consistent that he would be able to do this, and we know that even mere laser beams from Kizaru is able to pierce Whitebeard's and damage his durability. So it's like very consistent for Aokiji to be able to react to Whitebeard on the ground or just react to him in general. And the freeze and vibrations point, I don't necessarily have a contention with that, but I would say like the only thing that I would present to that would be that regardless, even if he's able to break out that, I don't think that he's using his full power in Marineford. And this is due to the fact that at the beginning of Marineford, Akainu actually tells Whitebeard to stop damaging it. And there's like this whole narrative thing with like them trying to protect Marineford and save it. Do you want to stand for that as well?
Yeah, you can go ahead and send it.
Okay. Let me get that.
I'm just curious, can you send me the scan? If not, I'm sure they concede. Yeah. I did.
Who is talking right now in VC?
Smackwood. Blaze is the judge. Kuz picked.
My
Right.
Discord crashed. My
Bruce, may I
fault.
ask you? May I ask you a question?
Sorry, my Discord crashed.
You're fine. You're fine.
But here's the scan.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. There's like them implying that they're trying to protect Marineford, and then you can go ahead with your question, but I want to add some things to that as well. Go ahead.
Okay. Where did you get the "Did he use hockey? Is Aokiji dead?" scan at?
It's just like a colored manga site. Do you want the actual translation?
Because I could be wrong, but the actual translation I sent here. This is a screenshot that I got from Viz Media. It's not "Did he use hockey?" It was "He was stabbed with pure hockey."
I mean, either way, even if you want to use Viz for it, Viz can be inconsistent with translations as well as other things. So like they still translate from the direct kanji, and then there's still the implication that they make that he's using hockey is the same. So regardless of whatever translation you get, the implication he's using hockey.
Okay, I just want to make sure. You can continue with your point on the scan that you just sent.
But yeah, we know this is also like consistent with like the whole narrative, them holding back, because I'll get this scan for you. Are you familiar with Shiki from One Piece?
I can't say that I am. Shiki?
Okay, yeah. Shiki's basically like an old rival of Roger, which is in chapter 0 of One Piece. And I'll get this scan for you. Here you go. It's like he's also in the movie, but he's like a canon character to One Piece as well. But here you go. So Shiki is basically stated to be an equal to Roger in chapter 0. And we know that Shiki being stated to be an equal to Roger, we know that Roger should be able to at least be relative to Shiki in some type of way. But later during Marineford, I'm pretty sure you know the scans that refer to that Garp and Roger have almost killed each other multiple times, so they're relative in terms of power. So this means that Roger should also be relative to Garp, so Garp should be relative to Shiki in a sense. But then we have people like Sengoku who actually team up with Garp to fight Shiki. So there should be no need for Sengoku to join in on that fight unless the implication is that Shiki is stronger or they're trying to minimize damage. And it wouldn't be consistent with that Shiki's stronger because we have direct statements and showings of Shiki being relative to them. So it actually makes more sense for them to team up on Shiki to reduce damage in Marineford.
Okay.
I can give you the scan for that here. And here's the scan for Garp and Sengoku versus Shiki. Yeah, and it talks about how their battle destroyed half of Marineford before a conclusion was reached. A pirate known as Golden Lion was thrown and impaled down. But yeah.
Okay. Am I good to rebuttal now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to go back to what you first said with the whole durability negation thing and how it would have to prove that it passed through him in order to do durability negation, even though it's hard to quantify it, right? So even if you can't quantify the damage that is done, let me get the video here. So first off, it took 10 days at a close stalemate for Kuzan and Akainu to fight. Whitebeard, when he fought him, essentially dealt with him in minutes, and that is linked in this video. But also later in this video, when Whitebeard does hit Akainu as he tries to blitz him, you can clearly see that it's making an impact on the front side of his ribs, but then this attack proceeds to ripple through him with the energy caused from the earthquake and the vibrations going through his body that then proceed to split Marineford essentially in half. And you can see that around the 3-minute mark.
Okay. So this scan that you posted, and you're saying he was able to handle Akainu, doesn't necessarily have to be interpreted that way, because although the anime does censor it, because in the anime they show Akainu burning his mustache, and
100%.
more gruesome, so they show him half of his head gone or whatever.
Yes.
But even in the anime, the most consistent theme is that actually when Whitebeard gets that first blow on Akainu, he's actually off guard because he sneaks up behind him and he's injuring Whitebeard. He's injuring Akainu from behind. And then the later panels is when he actually strikes Akainu during that scan I posted above. Here you go. When he strikes him during this scene, which is also in the anime, He strikes him during this scene, and then this is actually a Kainu in the air. So again, he would be less mobile, even if it's unquantifiable, and when it scales to him in speed. So if this is a Kainu in the air, and we already know that he damaged the Kainu while he was off guard, it shouldn't really scale. And to the vibration point that you made, if you have an earthquake at like a seismic scale, right? And then we know that whenever the vibration spread or the magnitude from the earthquake spreads, it spreads in a general direction. So it's fine that if he is hitting a kaiju in his ribs and the earthquake is spreading, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it passed by, because we know that his earthquakes have a certain AoE to them, which is like it's consistent because we see actually that he condenses his power whenever he holds it. But in this scene, we actually don't see him just condense it. We just see him smacking his ribs. So it's actually fair to assume that the vibrations just spread out along a radius. And it would be like consistent with the theme of when a Whitebeard appears on Marineford and that he uses his vibration power, and it's in the direction of like towards Marineford, and he's facing towards, and he's obviously on his ship. It actually spreads to other islands. And I'm pretty sure you're aware that I can just get you the scan if you want.
Well, what I want to point out is when he hit a Kainu, the majority of the damage is while Whitebeard is facing the Marineford building, and Akainu absorbs the shot, and you see his body ripple, and then from that, 3 main splits, this happens in about 3 minutes in the video again, 3 main splits go directly behind Akainu to shatter the building. Yes, there was an AoE behind him, but what implies durability negation is that it was able to pass through Akainu's body. And then you can see here in the scan that you sent, as he hits him, Akainu is coughing up blood. So that also implies internal damage.
So even if I was to say that at 3 minutes, right? I'll screenshot it as well, just to make it easier to see. Here you go. 1 second. Okay. So at the 3 minute mark during the clip, whenever he attacks a Kainu, at that point of contact, so right here and here, when he damages them verbatim, we see that these quakes and these cracks are already spreading in that general direction, which would actually support my whole thing that whenever Whitebeard attacks or uses his Gurgur no Mi, the quakes actually spread in a general direction or in an AoE, like a certain location. And we actually see that at that point where he releases that power, there are already quakes to the left of him and surrounding the ground. And then when the ground breaks, obviously, the cracks from the ground actually spread up towards the base of the Marineford headquarters, like the base of the Marineford. So if an earthquake is spreading, like I said, and the vibrations are spreading, the ground continues to crumble or fall, right? Obviously, the rubble or the magnitude from the earthquake would spread, and one gap in the ground falling would cause other gaps to fall and eventually would collapse. And you saying purely that he damages him and he coughs up blood, so it's internal damage. If you punch somebody in the gut or the stomach, or you're injuring their stomach, you're able to already internally damage them. So you can already argue that everybody, in a sense, already has this type of negation, because you pushing or pressing on those vital organs or those vital parts are already going to cause internal bleeding. So it doesn't necessarily have to equate to the negation of somebody's durability. It can also equate to the fact that you're just pressed upon these organs. If you want to argue that, I don't necessarily have a contention, because everybody would be able to do that in a sense.
But to the point that you are making about an airborne attack, most of that energy is going to dissipate because it is not making any ground contact at first. Akainu being originated in the air where the attack is being placed. What I'm saying is, because the point that you made is that it's where the energy is starting, but what I'm trying to say is where the energy is ending at his abdomen while airborne. So a lot of that energy is going to be dissipated. It is going through Akainu, causing the most damage. Meaning seismic tremors that he aimed at Akainu happen to go all the way through him too. And to go back to what I was saying earlier, let me send this scan again of Whitebeard's durability negation. You can pretty easily say with this scan that I'm saying, just take a close look at the giant's head here. Look at the illustration. Do you see the spikes coming off from the circle?
Yeah.
When Whitebeard originates an earthquake in his fist is the epicenter. Where he is hitting this giant here with spikes coming off of it, the mass breaking evenly, meaning the energy is evenly applied. It's basically saying that the epicenter, because of all the spikes coming off, which is illustrating the energy being dispersed, is starting in the center of his head, instantaneously killing him. If the energy were to have started just at his fist, his mask would not have broken like that. His skull actually would have been just in the ground, pummeled, because we've seen him easily split through Marineford. So if he was using an earthquake to punch him into the ground, his head would just be non-existent at this point. But it's the fact that it's a circle with spikes coming off of it, and that's illustrating that energy is being evenly distributed all throughout the epicenter of it. That would mean that the tremors are starting from the inside of the giant's head.
Okay. So this probably would be like my rebuttal to this. So the point that you're basically trying to argue, you're basically making, okay, 4K said, dang, okay, oh god. Okay, back to this though. The point that you're making is basically you're making a presupposition, but that presupposition doesn't actually have to have an it doesn't have to equate to anything, because the presupposition that you're making is basically saying that because he uses this attack and he's not like crushing his skull, or like it's not just smashing him into the ground. The one thing that you're presupposing is that, one, you're saying that this guy isn't durable enough, or two, you're implying that Whitebeard can't be holding back. Because we know that obviously this guy shouldn't scale to Whitebeard, because this
100%.
guy, this Marine officer, should scale below the admirals or the rest of the people that are way higher up in him, or just higher tiers of power. He should already scale below them. So Whitebeard doesn't necessarily have a reason to be going all out or releasing all of his power here. That's not necessary, and obviously would exert stamina. So we have a reason to believe that this isn't the case. And also for him to be releasing his power, and you saying that it would like smash his whatever, it would like smash his skull. Like I said, yeah, he can just be holding back, or this guy can just be durable enough to take that. Was obviously, I think, the better assumption using Occam's razor would be to assume that he's obviously not going all out. And then the spikes argument of you saying that we see those spikes, are you referring to the black thing?
Yes,
like,
yes, the black thing is coming off the circle of his
okay.
of his
So
hand.
so the black thing, you can argue, is actually just his blood. I can get you the scan for this. This is in the anime as well. When Whitebeard uses his ability, we see blood disperse.
What about the earthquake happening behind him with the same black spikes?
Okay. Let's see.
And then you see blood clotted at the top there. The blood is rounded in dots, and then behind it, where the earthquake ripples off from him hitting him, are direct black spikes.
Okay. So you making that point, did you hear the point that I made earlier about how whenever there's an earthquake or some vibration spreading in a magnitude, that obviously all of the attacks or all of the vibrations that he's spreading in that general direction isn't always just hitting that focal point of contact. Some of it is going to disperse.
Yeah, 100%.
That's all that's how it works.
That's not the
Even
point
if
that
you
I'm
were to
making.
say, yeah, even if you were trying to say that, okay, well, that disperse or most of the damage is going in this general area, it doesn't really matter, because an earthquake can happen and it can happen like a country or just somewhere random, right? And an earthquake can appear at that time, and that focal point can have most of the damage, but the magnitude and the seismic vibrations of the earthquake can actually spread from that focal point. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean it's going through that medium. It can also just mean that it's dispersed in that medium. So it obviously doesn't have to equate to that. And obviously, like I said, it just makes more sense for him to be holding back. And we see this in the video more clearly when he fights John the Giant, which is here. And if you go to police, should be.
So I think you get what I'm trying to, I think you were trying to, I think you thought that I was trying to say something different, which I wasn't. I'm not arguing about the ripples of the earthquake going off. I'm arguing the illustration of the earthquake itself. I'm not saying that it's dispersed, therefore it's going through him. No, what I'm saying is you see how the energy is being shown of the earthquake of black spikes, meaning that is energy dissipating from the earthquake along with the black spikes around the seismic circle that Whitebeard made. Meanwhile, at the top of the illustration, if you can see that, it is illustrating blood of rounded dotted points. And
So
also,
do
you
you?
can see, you can see on the right side of the manga when Whitebeard initially grabs onto his helmet, and you see how look at the bottom right hand corner. Do you see how the circle is starting off at the top of his helmet, but it's slowly deforming and deshaping and moving down into his helmet? And then on the big panel that is being illustrated, you see the entire circle engulfing his face, meaning he transferred that seismic wave. His hand's still in the same spot, but he transferred that seismic wave from the top of his elbow down onto his mask, making it bigger, engulfing his head and starting the tremors on the inside of his head.
Okay. So do you? Okay. So on video, it's actually more clear, and it's also like more transparent, I want to say, to see. If you go to 32 seconds when he uses this ability, you actually see the disperse and you see the blood that emerges from his mask. And then obviously, like those say it's black spikes that you're referring to. You can just argue that's like his hair, and it's like consistent because in the bottom right panel you can see the spikes on his hair. And then like later, like you can see that the way that it's turned or the way that the manga want to illustrate this or the art looks, they actually make it look more like they kind of like draw it more, I want to say, like bigger, like they kind of expand on it. But here's what it looks like in the anime for it to be more clear. It actually, wait, I got locked out of the scans chat for some reason.
Wait, what?
I don't know.
Same.
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah, the same thing is happening to me too.
We can just point out from the thumbnail of the video that you sent to, you can once again see
Okay,
the
yeah.
circle
Yeah,
evenly
it-
distributed.
Mhm.
The epicenter is right, basically where his nose and teeth are at. That is the epicenter of the circle.
Again, my refutation would still be the same, that either way that you look at it, in the anime it's still interpreted to be his hair. And even if you're saying that it's at his nose and it's still breaking off in that radius, I already said there's like a drop off with seismic quakes. So I think that it's fine for some to spread, and it does not necessarily have to mean that it's traveling through said medium, unless you can show me something like a fact of this happening, or like what's it called, just like seismic vibrations being able to like pass through, like I said, like solid objects or whatever. Then I would like accept it. But I already think that like I refuted to it, so I wouldn't have a counter, because I feel like it's just like ad nauseum, we would just be going over the same point. But
Okay, this is the last thing that I will say about it then. He's making a three-dimensional sphere. It's not just a circle. The way the earthquakes work is they have an epicenter. The epicenter normally originates from his fist or his foot, whatever Whitebeard decides to use to initiate an attack. Here, the clear epicenter is just in the middle of his skull. That is my point, meaning he is starting the tremor. I don't care where the tremors go after the attack. I don't care. What I'm stating is that the tremors are starting now inside of his skull.
okay, so yeah, and also I feel like you have to really look at, like I said, the manga art and the illustration for what the artist is trying to display here. Because like I said, in the anime they kind of show it more vividly. It actually starts on his mask, because he grabs his mask and then he spreads it around the mask and it cracks the mask. And if anything, that would explain or like furthermore support why his face like is like bloodied up, or he's not like his face is like messed up or whatever. His bones like don't appear to be cracked, at least, unless you argue like it says crack or something. But I don't think that's like a proper justification. But yeah, I don't like, I feel like I already like argue this point. We can just move on from it if you're okay with that.
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay, so do you have any other things that you want to bring up for Whitebeard?
Yeah, so I wanted to so back to what I said about Raleigh being able to compete essentially with Kuzan and Kuzan.
Right,
Not
right.
Kuzan, but
It's Ray.
Huh?
Not Raw. It's Ray.
Rayleigh?
oh, Rayleigh, sorry. With Rayleigh being able to compete with Kizaru. So this is essentially Rayleigh explaining the power in the One Piece universe. Among all the countless pirates, he's considered to be the same level as Whitebeard. He's one of the 4 strongest pirates in the world. He's referring to the Yonkos, or the 4 emperors. Okay, and when it comes to that, that's just Rayleigh being somebody that was on the same ship as a Yonko, stating how strong the Yonkos are. And then this is also a panel of a very recent chapter of Akainu referring to Big Mom and Kaido, people the likes of those, as a disaster, something that they literally cannot handle right now, and that it would be a monumental shift of power, and it would put the Marines at a disadvantage, especially because they just removed the 7 warlords. And then on top of him explaining power, this is also this is Sengoku at the start of the war, essentially concluding that this is the most dangerous man in the world currently that is charging them. So if you want to try to make Kuzan relative to the Yonkos, it would still be a problem because Whitebeard is stated to be the strongest Yonko at the time of him landing in Marineford while he is old and sick. And then on top of that, this is him stating that he can destroy the world. Now, that could be a hyperbole or not. I would argue that it isn't because of the damage that he does, and the fact that while Whitebeard starts his earthquakes, Kuzan is not able to stop it. He nullifies the waves that would ruin the Marineford base, period. But there was still earthquakes. People still were having problems to stand. And then one last thing, I just have to find the scan here. Oh yeah, this is also Kuzan getting hurt by that diamond guy. The scan that you sent earlier when Kuzan was attempting to fight Whitebeard. Whitebeard vibrates off the ice and does essentially nothing. This is Kuzan basically, yes, it was a sneak attack, but he did damage. You can see blood on Kuzan's face at the bottom of that panel right now. And then right here, are all of the admirals essentially being terrified directly after Sengoku states that he has the power to destroy the world, especially with Kuzan's face. So the main thing that I'm bringing up here is if you're making them relative to a Yonko, Whitebeard is stated to be the strongest Yonko. Whitebeard was able to very, very badly damage Akainu while taking hits and damage from many other people while not having his crew. Granted, it was a 1v1 at the time. Whitebeard, already being mortally wounded, was able to deal with Akainu, and that was a feat that took Kuzan 10 days to lose. Not he didn't beat Akainu, he lost. And so what I'm saying there is, not only is Whitebeard at Marineford still the strongest person in the world, he is relative to the Yonkos and the strongest Yonko.
You're fine with me repeating?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if a moderator has to fix it, but I can't still post scans yet for some reason.
Who did this?
Probably Huey.
Can you do it now?
They took
Not
this,
yet.
so if he had it raw, I could just give him permission to the channel.
All right.
Sorry about this. I don't know who did this, but I'm
It's fine.
probably going to ban him. And I'm willing to bet $18 that it's Huey.
No cap. If you wrong, I need to. Forker still owe me 200 actually.
200, what?
The fuck do I owe you money for?
Oh, cause you said that because you made that bet that.
Sorry about this, Chris. Are you okay with this while we're trying to fix this?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I just want to be respectful to you, sir.
Oh, that's
You can just pass your scans through Jacob and let him.
You gave him the judge role, but the judges aren't able to post either.
Yeah.
So
Give me 1 second.
In the meantime, this will progress, and I can send it to somebody. They could post it. That makes it easier.
Yep.
Can you still post?
Yes, I can.
So you post this for me. Sent it to your DM, Jacob. But basically that scan right there is actually from the Viva card in One Piece, which is the data book that Oda actually directly writes on. He actually directly makes statements himself, and it doesn't have to be paraphrased or another person making a statement. So yes, in the bottom stanza it actually says Whitebeard attained the title of strongest in the world well before the great age of pirates, as he had immense power and ability that could destroy the world. The ability that they're referring to using context should be the Gurgur no Mi. And this is also consistent with the fact that Sengoku makes a statement that he has the power to destroy the world, is in reference to his devil fruit, or his devil fruit having the power to destroy the world. So when they make this statement, or they say he's able to destroy the world, or he's like I said, he's the, like they say in this panel, the most dangerous man in the world is charging us. This is just Sengoku making this statement, and we know that you would have to question the validity that Sengoku actually has, because there's things like, I'm pretty sure you're aware of Dragon from One Piece has similar statements like Dragon is the most dangerous, or Dragon's the most wanted, or things like that. So it's important how we look at those statements and what they mean.
I think he was
But
referring to his army. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over. I think he was referring to his
okay,
army, the Revolutionary Army itself, being the
so
biggest threat.
okay, yeah. So in this regard, right, of him making this, I think that the most consistent, even if you were to say that, okay, well, in the statement about Dragon being the most dangerous, the implication should be like the information that he has, or like the fact that he leads the revolutionaries, or they could take stuff down, whatever. If you made that interpretation, that is fine. But when making excuse me, when making arguments and using contextual evidence or using deductive reasoning, sorry, but basically the implication should be that they're referring to him being, like I said, or having the power to destroy the world as being the strongest man. So I don't necessarily have to, this doesn't necessarily have to equate to speed or durability. It could just mean that in terms of like DC or AP, however you want to interpret it, that he would have this ability. So that's why they view him that stature. And you also make like a lot of implications and like presuppositions about what's happening in the manga panels, because in the scan where it says like okay, so the Fujitora one where it says, speaking of unpredictable developments over in Wano, Kaido and Big Mom are apparently going to join forces. And they say it's the return of rocks, and then they're like they're basically talking about at a time where we're too busy to do anything, it's just the latest disaster. So when taking the word disaster, defining disaster, or just something that is bad, we know that when dealing with Yonkos, it's not actually the Yonko himself, or Big Mom is a female, so you could say herself as well. But it's not just the Yonko itself that is a problem, it's the Yonko's crew. And we know that this is consistent because the admirals have scale and are able to damage Whitebeard to the point where the admirals wanted to. You could pretty much argue that besides like plot-induced stupidity, that they would be able to beat Whitebeard, because their crew is the thing that makes them so dangerous, the massive crew that they have, which is why they reference the Rocks pirates in that scan for reference. So if anything, the interpretation that I'm given using Occam's razor would be the more consistent thing, because we're arguing for consistency here. So even you making this argument, or you trying to say that I was saying that admirals and yonkos are relative, I don't necessarily agree to that notion. I think that yes, in terms of, I agree to it partially in terms of whenever referring to admirals in One Piece, or the Yonkos or the emperors in One Piece, they use them in synonymous terms, implying that they are relative in terms of power, but there are high ends and low ends of relativity. You can still have people like Kizaru, Mid-Diff, and Rayleigh, and you can still say Rayleigh's relative to Kizaru, but we obviously know who would take the cake if the fight lasted. So I don't necessarily agree that it has to be interpreted that way. And similar to Whitebeard, Akainu actually has a statement that he has the most destructive devil fruit, which I can send you, but you can go ahead.
Okay, so first off, starting with what you said about Sengoku, essentially, it's his opinion that he is the most dangerous man in the world, correct? And it's based off of the knowledge that he has. So, as you can see here, Raleigh, somebody that was with the Pirate King himself, also agrees that the four emperors are the strongest people in the land. They rule lands with an iron grip. He's one of the four great pirates. It's being stated. So if you're saying that Sengoku may not have enough information to articulate that Whitebeard is the strongest person in the lands, we now also have Raleigh saying, or Rayleigh, however you say, that he is also one of the four strongest people ever, plain and simple. So not only do we have the battle experience of a pirate and somebody that knows the ways of pirates' life, their strengths, and the journeys that they've went on, stating that Whitebeard is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, we also have the enemy side of Sengoku saying that he is also the strongest and has the power to destroy the world. That would make him not only relative to the Yonkos, still greater even at Marineford, because they're talking, Raleigh talks about the pecking order, and Sengoku doesn't necessarily talk about the pecking order of the world and how they correspond to their admirals, but he does state that they are stronger. And you can see, look, matter of fact, look at Akainu's face. He doesn't really care. Kizaru looks like fucking Adam Sandler. But then Kuzan is actually worried. Like he's genuinely worried in that panel.
Okay. So I'm gonna attack the first point that you made. So the scan that you're referring to, where it talks about them being the strongest, um, you're reading the scan. I want to say that you're interpreting it wrong. It says that among all the countless pirates, he's considered to be on the same level as Whitebeard. He's one of the four greatest pirates in the world who live in the second half of the grind line. And in the first panel, we see Big Mom, Shanks, and Whitebeard, and they're referring to Kaido, and they say they rule the lands there with an iron grip. People call them the four emperors.
Yeah.
All of the statements with the Yonkos being the greatest or the strongest are in reference to pirates. It actually never states that the Yonkos are just like, oh, they're stronger than, the admirals, or they would beat the admirals. And even taking into account things like Garp being relative to Roger, or Sengoku being relative to Garp, or all these examples we have of like admirals keeping up with these Yonko tiers or Yonko level people, that it's actually consistent for this to be the case. And the statements that you're basically implying are saying that they're the strongest doesn't necessarily represent the Yonkos. It's just in reference to that. And this narrative, like point you're trying to make, or illustrative point, how you're talking about Kuzan's face. We see at the start of the battle where it burst out and Sengoku's talking, we see Kizaru still has that that's just like the look that he has on his face. Keiji, like you trying to like argue that he's looking like gloom, or he looks scared in that panel where he's taking off his face mask.
He kind of looks angry to me.
You even saying that, or you trying to make that implication, is just blatantly contradicted by the fact that he rushes Whitebeard. He charges Whitebeard. He wants smoke with Whitebeard. That's what he does. So this is consistent for this to be true, and I don't think that you can make a point arguing just off of the illustrative point of
Oh no,
saying
you're
that
right about
the way
that. You're
that
right
his
about that.
face looks. So in regards to the relative point, are you saying that like Aokiji couldn't beat Akainu or whatever? It wouldn't really matter, because if you're able to fight somebody 10 days on stalemate, using Occam's razor, the way that we can do it is for at least 9 days, right? Or that 10th day or whatever it was. That 10th day, obviously you would lose the fight. But that means for those rest of those days, you're on extreme terms of relativity with each other, to the point where you're fighting for that long period of time, similar to Ace and Jinbei. But for Akainu versus Whitebeard, we see them fight for a few minutes, and Akainu is burning holes through his body, demolishing him and destroying him, showing that Akainu himself has the ability to like two-shot him. And if Akainu has the ability to burn half of his face off, and he was to hit him twice, then he should be able to like theoretically just two-shot a Whitebeard. And Aokiji is relative to, like I said, a stronger form of this character, and not including the 2-year amp that they get. Even if it's not quantifiable, we know that 2 years and all this stuff is still enough to the point where Akainu just has faster speed scaling than Whitebeard. And in reference to the Devil Fruit statement about him being able to destroy the world, we have a statement from, like I said, directly from Oda right here, where it says, for Suzuki, like Sakazuki, it says his devil fruit boasts the highest offensive power among devil fruits. And right here in those brackets, that's what like O'Hara adds for like his implications or interpretations. But the regular sentence where it says, as its ability to wield magma allows it to melt through many things, this is consistent with it melting through Whitebeard, or it being able to, like I said, burn through like this giant icebergs or ice like blocks. So it's like very consistent for it to have this highest offensive power. Whereas the Whitebeard destroying the world thing could just be interpreted to be like a DC thing. It doesn't have to inherently be AP.
Mhm.
So I think that we have just more concrete evidence for just having higher, just like higher AP, or just having like I said, faster speed scaling or durability, with him scaling to like stronger forms of Aokiji, which would just put him above Whitebeard. But
So I am I good to rebuttal now?
yeah.
So I think you glanced over my main point that I issued first when you were stating that it was the lack of information on Sengoku's side to where it could sort of make the statement that he has the power to destroy the world, or that him stating that he is the strongest man makes it less relevant. You are right, I did misread the previous panel of Rayleigh stating all of this, but what I implied with that panel was now you have two sides confirming that they are among some of the strongest people in the world. He's one of the four greatest pirates. He's not talking about Whitebeard, no, but he's being put in association with Whitebeard. He's one of the four greatest pirates in the world who lived in the second half of the Grand Line. Okay, so that statement tying in with Sengoku being genuinely afraid of him I would think would provide enough evidence as to why that information is now even closer to being correct, or at least confirmable. Because you have one side that could very well be biased in the Marines, but they aren't, because they're terrified of Whitebeard, or not necessarily terrified, but are stating that he has the power to destroy the world and he is the strongest man. And then you also have another side now in the pirates also stating the fact that he is one of the strongest pirates out there, period. And then with the whole thing of them being in a stalemate, I don't think that Akainu can two-shot Whitebeard. I think Whitebeard was dealing with 1,000 different things, had a cannonball in his chest, had all of his crew protecting Luffy while still worrying about Luffy, worrying about the fact that one of his sons just died, and then he got hit. But also keep in mind that Akainu tried to speed blitz it's in the video I sent earlier. I'll send it again. Akainu tried to speed blitz Whitebeard initially, and Whitebeard literally just one hand bats this man away consistently, hits him twice, and almost completely immobilizes him. And Akainu does land one shot, and it looks like one of those hockey-infused punches, you know what I mean? It could very well be Magnum, but it didn't. He hit him in the abdomen, and it essentially exploded inside of his body, and Whitebeard tanked that. Then he got hit in the head by Akainu. So what I'm saying here is, if they stalemated for 10 days, Whitebeard arguably beat Akainu, or at least neutralized him, on top of the fact that he did it ridiculously fast compared to a 9-day stalemate that, yes, it was even, obviously, it was a 9-day stalemate that Kuzan eventually lost. And then once again, on top of the whole information thing of me maybe not having enough, I have both the Marines saying that he is the strongest, and then the pirates themselves saying that he's one of the 4 strongest. So if anything, with that information, there's now information agreeing with the pirates by saying that he is the strongest. Does that make sense?
So, my counter to this would be, hold up. My counter to this would be that, for the first scan, this isn't, like I said, that scan isn't referring to Rayleigh, unless you can show that it is. It says that it's referring to the 4 Yonkos. Why I brought up Kaido, because it's like directly referring to, like, pretty sure that's the Kaido versus Shanks thing. And like how they basically had a skirmish before the Battle of Marineford, and Shanks actually went to intercept him. And this statement about him being like I said, one of the 4 strongest pirates, doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. It's also just like a title and what they get based off of like the whole narrative or the theme of them acquiring this territory, or what comes with being a Yonko, the strength of being a Yonko. And like I said, with the Whitebeard statement, and Sengoku saying that this man has the power to destroy the world, or the statements about that being true. This statement, like I said, is just, I think it's referring to the devil fruit, and due to contextual evidence of him activating it and then Sengoku making this statement, or the Viva card directly from Oda making this statement, it's just referring to his devil fruit being that strong, or his devil fruit being able to do that much damage. I think that's what it's referring to. Even then, like I said, there's still durability and speed that go into this as a benefactor. And for us to look at this scene, or you say that Whitebeard is taking care of him, like I said, if you're able to destroy half of somebody's face, and you're able to deliver a second blow to their face, and obviously be killing this person, or damage them, or where you're able to, like, he's able to magma hound through Whitebeard's body and just decimate Whitebeard. In the scenes where he actually damages Whitebeard, I already said this earlier during the debate, but he's off guard at first. So obviously, if you hit a character off guard, Obviously with the Jozu point two, or actually bringing up Jozu hit out Kiji. If you hit somebody off guard, it does not have to scale to them. This is like consistent in anime because obviously if you're off guard, you're not prepared to take this attack. And if he sneaks up behind a Kainu and he hits him, then obviously a Kainu would take damage from it, and then any damage that he takes after won't even scale to a Kainu at full power because he was off guard when he initially took damage. So with us knowing these things, we know all the scenes where Whitebeard damages him, he doesn't actually scale to him. And then on top of this, we know that Kainu still does damage. And you saying that he got hit with a cannonball, or you bringing up all these examples to where Whitebeard might have been distracted, you can't really give a quantification for how much Whitebeard would be stronger by. And if you can't give a quantification, like I said, he can just be like 0.1 times weaker, or any significant or insignificant amount of weaker from his like original power. You can't really quantify these things without it being fallacious. So for Kuzan or Aokiji to, like I said, produce this much power to where he's just drastically better, and with the evidence we have presented, such as Marco in this panel that I'm about to show you, it's in this fold right here. For Marco to actually be intercepting the damage from Kizaru, or him being able to react to this damage from Kizaru, we know that Kizaru is shown blasting Whitebeard through the chest later during the war with just a laser beam. So if Marco is able to react or take this damage from Kizaru himself, but Whitebeard is shown getting pierced through or his body, and these are multiple beams. These are like at least 20 if we look at the panel. But even with us knowing this, if one is able to pierce his body and Marco is taking this damage, then we know this is significant because this is already contradicting the Whitebeard thing. This has already shown that Whitebeard doesn't have the durability and the speed that other people do during the war. And even if I still man the strength point, which I don't, because I feel like I rebutted, it doesn't mean anything. But
as you said, with certain fruits being able to do certain things, that's just what Marco's fruit allows him to do in the first place. And it's not like Whitebeard. You could also imply in this scan that Whitebeard just reacts to the light because he understands that Marco is there. Like what you said, how I get what you're saying with the fact that the Gurgur no Mi could be strong or feared just because it can destroy the planet. But the reason why Marco can do that is because he has a mythical zone type Phoenix fruit. That's the only reason why he stood in front of that light beam. I understand that Whitebeard got hit by them, yes, but that's all. I know you cannot quantify the distractions that were going in that battle. And we're using standard battle assumptions, correct?
Yeah, like SBA for like win conditions, that's fine. Yeah.
SBA, do they start from 4,000 feet away?
They started in like a neutral range to the point where like obviously they both have like I can't remember the exact distance, but if like it was a range character versus a close range character, the range character wouldn't start off like miles away. They would be like relative distance to each other. So
Yeah,
like
so
face to face, like probably.
They started the distance of the shortest range character.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, they pretty much have like relative, or if anything, you could argue maybe Whitebeard has more range. I think that they're pretty equal because we see that what like a Kainu uses this like magma fist to count like and they clash with his quake. They're able to like clash. So if anything, they're like pretty close. So they would start at a distance. But to this Marco point that you're bringing up with Marco's Devil Fruit being able to do this, you're aware that Marco still has durability. So even if Marco is able to get hit with this attack, Marco still has to have the durability to take this attack because these beams are coming at him in a massive effect. And obviously, Marco has to be able to take these attacks and regenerate from these attacks as well. So he still has to be able to scale to this. And for this to happen, like I said, where you say like Whitebeard's able to react to him because he looks at Marco. Mm-hmm. Simply seeing something doesn't necessarily mean that you have the reaction speed to react to this, which is why, like I said, like you can have like somebody punching you, or like I don't know, a character or some object coming towards you and you can look at it, but it does not mean that you can react to this. Obviously, like I said, Marco being able to react to Kizaru, and Whitebeard actually never tags Kizaru. Kizaru like reacts to his Basento, which I can like show you, and then he also beams and like blitzes him. So like we have these characters who just have better speed scaling. Let me get this. 1 second. Pull up this again.
Well, if you're stating that speed is king, but but the Whitebeard is being stated to be relative to Yonko's, that means that he has to be able to keep up. And I understand that Whitebeard got hit, but also Akainu got hit while he was on guard too, meaning he's relative to Akainu, but stated to be relative to Yonko's. And if speed is king and speed does win fights in the One Piece verse, that would mean that Whitebeard would have to be able to keep up with these people.
So for you to bring up this Kizaru point, or are you saying that like he would have to keep up due to the fact of him being a Yonko, or him like reacting? The times where I brought up Akainu or Whitebeard is damaging Akainu, these are all times basically where Akainu seems to be off guard, or he sneaks up behind Akainu, or Akainu is in the air, so he's less mobile, so he doesn't actually scale to his speed. And then we have scenes like this where Kizaru is just blatantly blitzing him with a laser beam, or Kizaru is reacting to his Basento slash that's like should be embedded with hockey, and then he just doesn't do anything to Kizaru. And we know that if anything, this should make sense because we know that the Admiral should be relative, or if Marco has relative speed scaling to Kizaru, then why? And we know that Marco could barely hold off a Kainu, then obviously a Kainu should have like better speed scaling than Whitebeard. Or even during the scene where like a Kainu falls into a ravine, or a Kainu falls into this thing, like I said, a Kainu proceeds to body Marco, or just like I said, just beat up Marco up to the point where Marco is not even able to hold him off, or he just, like I said, he's just slower, like he can't do anything to them. So if we know this is the case, then Akainu should be faster, as well as, like I said, have higher offensive power and be more durable, because we can't quantify how many hits it would take Whitebeard to incapacitate Akainu. We just know that he can make him bleed, but simply making somebody bleed does not mean you have to skill to the point where you're able to defeat this person. Like making a person's nose bleed or just cough up blood isn't really anything significant. So I think that in terms of, like I said, durability, speed, and AP, that just Kiji should just be above, purely to the fact that he's able to contend with this Akainu, who just scales above that character. But
well, contending is something that does happen in this fight between Whitebeard and Akainu. Skip to a minute and 40 seconds. And go ahead and watch that with me. The thing is, I understand that you're saying that he hits him off guard, but here, after half of his face gets blown off, even though it's just his mustache and this, they get into a fight, and he's definitely on guard. He's trying to hit Whitebeard, where Whitebeard dismisses literally everything that he does with one hand and then hits him away. Whitebeard was relatively, like, with ease, using one hand, not having to use his weapon, was able to completely dismiss everything Akainu tried to throw at him.
okay, so for this point, like I said, it's important to look at like contextual evidence that were presented. So the same way you can jump to that clip, if we go to a minute and 10 seconds, we see Whitebeard damages Akainu. So obviously, if you're off guard, right, and you're not ready to take an attack, right, then the level of damage that you take would be significant to the point where you're not ready. And we know that characters that aren't ready to take attacks, like if you have like Goku being like shot with a laser, just like significant times we know characters aren't ready or braced for things, that they're going to take a lot of damage. So if Whitebeard hits Akainu and Akainu isn't ready to take this damage that Whitebeard is letting out, and then he's weakened at this point, that does not necessarily mean that Whitebeard scales to Akainu. And in the same scene where you see Whitebeard slash with his Basenso, we actually see Akainu react at 145, and then he blitzes him to the point where Akainu can't even dodge these fire magma fists that he shoots out, and they're continuously hitting Whitebeard. And then the only other time, like I said, is when they censor out his face getting blown off. They show the mustache at 146.
Yeah.
And then he jumps up in the air, and then at that jump, or the time where he's blocking those fists don't actually have to scale to his magma attacks, or the magma attacks that he uses, or
I'm using that for speed.
Hello.
I'm using that for speed, not his attacks being. I'm just using it for the fact that Whitebeard was backing off with one hand while severely injured, worried about multiple things, which, yes, you cannot quantify, and being able to dodge, dismiss, and then hit him away.
So, like I said, though, he would be weakened due to the fact that he snuck up on him. So anything that happens after that scene, it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't scale to actually a Kainu. Even then, like I said, we know that what Akainu has better speed scaling when he's using his magma abilities than him just using raw hands. Because in these raw hand scene, or he's just punching him with it like punches or kicks or whatever, and then Whitebeard's defending it. It doesn't scale because we see right before this he hits him with magma fist and he can't react to the magma fist, but he can react to the hands. So it should be consistent that while we're using this devil fruit, he just appears to be faster. And like I said, if I steel man you and I throw you a bone, I'm like, okay, well, he's able to do this. It still doesn't scale to full power Whitebeard, and it's consistent because every scene we see Aokiji reacts to Whitebeard several times unless he's in the air or he's not like I said, mobile, or he's not on the ground. So it's like very consistent for him to just have better speed scale in these examples that you presented.
For sure.
And yeah. So.
But with that logic that you're using about him being weakened because he was caught off guard, what happened at the beginning of Marineford? Whitebeard had a gigantic machete shoved through his chest. By this point in the fight, he also had a cannonball inside of his chest. I can use that same exact argument of him being weakened for being caught off guard, except he took lethal damage, a stab directly through the chest that he was bleeding out from vitally. So with that, wouldn't that make it a moot point with the fact that Whitebeard was also caught off guard in a very weakened state? You can't quantify how much weaker Whitebeard is. You also can't quantify how much weaker Akainu is.
So this would be my response to that. Okay, so do you know that actually that Marco recommends that Whitebeard he should have brought his medicine and like his equipment with him because like Whitebeard was very old at that time. I do remember that. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it actually is implied that Whitebeard would have actually been better off in the war if he brought that stuff with him. And we know that Whitebeard didn't do it because he tells Marco it's a sign of weakness and he doesn't want to look weak in front of the Marines. So if we look at this through the contextual evidence, do you realize that before this starts, you can argue that before the war, Whitebeard was actually stronger than he was during the war because of the medicine and the equipment that he had inside of his body. If we know this, then we know that Shanks clashes with Whitebeard's placenta, so Shanks and Whitebeard should actually be relative in speed. But the funny thing is that while this should be true, Shanks is actually stated to be the weakest Yonko. Do you want a statement for that?
Sure.
Okay. Get this scan.
This dude has his Instagram tackle in Discord because of the stream. That's smart, bro. Yeah, good job. Good job.
All right, here you go. This is actually said in the novel. It basically says that, yeah, that's what I don't get. If he wants to raise his profile, the second warlord should have been enough. Why does he fixate on me? And it's referring to Ace basically wanting to take out Whitebeard. And he says if he wanted to hunt down an emperor, he would have gone after Red Hair. And the implication is that Red Hair is actually the weakest, and it would be supported by Shanks having the, like I said, like the lowest amount of feats. So Shanks is relative to Whitebeard in terms of combat speed. Shanks pops up later during the war, and Shanks reacts to this Akainu attack, and he's like thanking Kobe for progressing the stall of Akainu. But this Akainu attack was actually meant for Kobe, so it wouldn't actually scale to Akainu's full power. The problem there is that we know that if anything, Akainu would scale to a better Shanks or a better Whitebeard due to the fact that Shanks is scaling to this weaker Akainu attack. So if this is the case, then we know he performs better, and we know he isn't going all out when he throws this. So it should be supported that Akainu just is better or stronger, has better speed scaling along the lines of him scaling to Kizaru or other people that should be much faster than Whitebeard. And you simply saying he was stabbed before the war, yeah, okay, he was injured, but we can't actually give a quantification for these things.
But we also can't give a
And if I
quantification for
deduce,
Akainu.
yeah, even if I deduce this, right, and I say, okay, well, he's injured with this attack, okay, well, I say that Whitebeard is he's stabbed or he's off guard, and then Akainu is off guard, right? When is the only other time that Whitebeard has scale into Akainu? He doesn't. The only time that he would be if we use statements about him being strong or other things during the war, such as the war starting out and what's it called, like Kizaru using these beams that are coming for Whitebeard and Marco reacting. So Whitebeard just doesn't have the speed scale, and even if I erase Score stabbing a sword through his chest, he still has lower speed scale than people like Marco, Kizaru, and then obviously Marco scales to a weekend Akainu and like other things like that. And we know Marco can actually regenerate. So even if you were to say that he got weaker, that would cancel out. So Akainu still has better speed scale, and even if we give Whitebeard the benefit of the doubt and we say that he was off guarded and he suffered an attack from Score. So it actually doesn't really change the scaling no matter which way you flip it. And if anything gets supported for Akainu, you can argue it would be better because if Whitebeard has this devil fruit that is able to dish out planetary level attacks, or in terms of AP or attack potency, then he should actually be taking more damage than from somebody like Score, who is just like some random who's not even a division commander. So it should actually be more significant for the damage that Akainu took to be greater than the damage that Whitebeard took.
Okay, but so what you said about me not having speed to match him because of the two sneak attacks, I in that video I had showed you who is able to talk. What in the world? In the video that I showed you, what I'm trying to point out is him matching him in speed.
It's letting us talk, so fix that before other people start unmuting and ear raping. It's letting us talk.
I think it's only you for some reason. So, as I said, he is matching Akainu there, and then back to what you said about possibly Sengoku not having enough information. I just want to hop back to that real quick. You were talking about somebody that was rivaling Gold Roger, correct? What was his name again?
It was Shiki. Yeah.
So those two fought each other. This was in One Piece Chapter 0, so obviously way before Whitebeard's reign. But Sengoku's still stating that Whitebeard's the strongest. And I understand that you're saying that it could just be the strongest because he has the ability to destroy the Earth. But I disagree on that point because we are making Whitebeard relative to Yonko's, and you can try to make him relative to Shanks, yes. But the thing is, when he showed up, Akainu was bloodlusted. Do you remember that? Akainu wanted to kill every pirate there. That's why Kobe stepped in the way. Kobe stepped in the way because Akainu literally said, I don't care about the men that are injured. I'm going to kill all of the pirates that are here. Yes, the attack was meant for Kobe, but Shanks stopped that, and then Akainu does not want to fight anymore.
Okay, so to that point directly, the first thing I want to say is okay, well, let me respond to this because I'll try to remember the other one along the lines. But this point that you're referring to, you can want to kill somebody but not go all out. It's because, like I said, like you can want to kill a fly or an insect, right? But that does not necessarily mean that you have to use all of this power, all of your power to do so.
I fucking dropkick that thing.
It would be consistent with the narrative of the fact that, like, obviously you don't want to exert a certain amount of stamina or just use that much strength because it's just a waste. And he's trying to say that Shanks or he just didn't want to fight anymore. It does not necessarily have to mean that he's conceded to the notion of Shanks. The whole narrative or the implication is actually that Kobe is basically saying that the reason they're fighting is stupid. They accomplished their goals of defeating Ace. There's no need for more Marine casualties to happen. So when Shanks stop in, if there's another Yonko with another Yonko crew, and we know that these crew, actually it's stated that, I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's actually stated that the people on Shanks's crew all boast high reputation in like similarity to Shanks. Are you familiar with that?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Okay, basically it's like stated or like said when they revealed the bounty with Whitebeard and Roger and the rest of the Yonkos. imply that Shanks's crew has like the most averaged out bounty or like the averaged out fame for their crew. Like he has like the best crew in terms of like fame or what they've made a name for themselves for, like including Ben Beckham and Lucky Rue and them. Are you familiar with that?
I am not. I'm not. Could you show me that?
You want a statement for that? Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, there is. Okay. So here it is in scans chat. Bottom half, where basically it says that next a 6-year member of the Emperor class, the youngest of the four, but with a great trust from his subordinates. Ben Beckham, Rux, Yasop, his crewmates are widely renowned with the high average bounty and the best balance of any pirate crew. So it's like referring to like when you have Big Mom or Big Mom and Katakuri or just like other Yonkos, there tends to be like a huge drop off in their bounty or their fame that they have earned or renowned for them. But for Shanks' his crew is just the most averaged out and well balanced. And you could argue that this means that everybody on his crew is extremely strong in terms of like their round Shanks' power or like around the strength of Shanks, or you could just say that it's fame or whatever. But either way, Whis is consistent because when Ben Beckham actually rolls up and he pulls up on Kizaru, and all these people are familiar with the names of these pirates, and they all like have this stature to where everybody's looking at them like, oh yeah, these are, instead of just being like, yeah, like the red hair pirates, like, oh, well, here's Ben Beckham, here's Lucky Roo. So even then, them wanting to stop or not fight does not necessarily have to mean he's conceding to the fact that he's stronger. It's also just supported by the fact that he just doesn't want any more casualties and is the most logical thing to do due to the narrative implication with Kobe. And this is similar to how Blackbeard says the same thing where Shanks is like, oh, like, you still want to fight. And Blackbeard's just like, haha, I'm not ready for you, like you yet or whatever. That doesn't necessarily have to mean that Blackbeard is conceding to the notion that Shanks is stronger. It could also just mean that Blackbeard just isn't ready to suffer that many casualties, or Blackbeard just isn't ready to do this because he has more plans for Shanks. And we know that Blackbeard is a really strategical character in how he plans events in One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
So these a lot of these implications and a lot of these moments in the series to where these things occur, it does not necessarily have to equate or equivocate to the fact of a power thing. There's a lot of things that add to this scene or whatever. And like I said, I'm not sure. I can't remember the other point that you made before the Shanks one. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think you
It was
said
that Akainu was
about
bloodlusted, wanted to kill
Oh
everyone.
yeah. A kind of being bloodlusted, yeah. Then it wouldn't really mean anything in regards to the fact that Akainu, just like I said, yeah, he can want to kill pirates, or yes, he can want to kill them. But are you telling me that Akainu attacking like a random Shanks pirate is the same as Akainu attacking Whitebeard or Akainu attacking a commander? No, like he can still hate pirates, he can still want to kill them. I mean, every single attack he's throwing all out or 100% of his power. It does not necessarily have to mean that.
So, could you explain to me how Kuzan is relative to Shanks?
Kuzan? Oh, because I'm basically implying that at best Shanks is relative to a holding back Akainu. And that holding back Akainu is much strong. Like obviously a full power Akainu would be stronger than that Akainu. And then we know that Aokiji would be stronger than that Kainu because then they get stronger later, and then there's a whole 2-year time skip. So obviously they get strong. So it's a lot of unquantifiable amps. But either way, Kuzan or Aokiji has better scaling to a much stronger character that scales above Shanks and Whitebeard.
Okay. You know what, sir? I concede.
Damn.
Good debate.
Yep. Good debate, bro. Good debate. Did I ever? All I have to ask is, did I ever make you think? Did I ever pull out anything where you're like,
I don't want to say that, but I would say that you did better than I thought you would do. Like
Same.
I thought
Jacob
that
did
you
do
did way
Yes,
worse.
really good.
sir.
well, I'm glad to hear that.
So-
This was my 9th debate. I did not want to take this debate 2 days ago. I was not confident at all. I tried to, but then I had the ability to get Whitebeard relative, so I thought that'd be. The thing is that you do is you just never fucking concede, and it's because you have every goddamn scan under the sun. I had 11 scans. So like that's how long have you been debating inverse One Piece? This is my first ever inverse debate. Period.
Years, to be honest.
Years. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to take you for an hour and 20 minutes with my first inverse One Piece debate.
Would you
shit!
still
It's
like?
12 p.m.
Wait, would you still like us to give our judgment or no?
Yeah, you can go ahead if you want. Sure.
I'll make a VC for y'all real quick. Hold on.
Alright.
But yeah, man.
We
Good
could.
debate.
I mean, we could just give it. We could just give it right now. You pretty much
Oh,
conceded
yeah,
anyways.
Oh my
But,
god,
like-
the mic just fell.
No, but yeah. It was a pretty good debate. Like, yeah, it was pretty long too. I'd say it was pretty easy though, Diff. For Kuros's part, because like really in the beginning of the debate, you kind of like already agreed to his Kuzan scaling to Aokiji. I mean, Kuzan to Akainu scaling.
Yeah.
So it was pretty. Once you let him go through that, it was pretty easy for him to just get him stronger than Whitebeard. And
That
then
was the
also
main
he
thing that I
got better.
noticed. Is his talking time equated way more to mine, which is not you talking over me or anything. It's just you simply had more to say.
Yeah, he was just more ready. Either way, yeah, it was a good debate. I have no idea.
You did really good, Jacob.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you.
That was fun, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. All right, well, I'm gonna end the Twitch stream, boys. Unlock general, turn that shit off. Slow mode, spam, Jacob packed, low diff, free. Yeah.
Slapped on
Yeah, go ahead.
Good
No, I'm
debate.
not
Good
trying to get
debate.
slapped on fighters, bro.
Alright, they can talk now.
Hey, there you go, boys. Unmute, say pack, do whatever you gotta do.
Good job,
Oh, there you go.
Jacob.
Wait, is your stream done?
I'm the only person who could talk. I don't know why.
Okay.
Jacob,
I'm
is
a-
your stream done?
Huh?
Is your stream done?
Yeah, it's off now.